Why a harmless man is not a good man, the dark truth, all right. Here's a question that's going to shake up everything you thought you knew. Is being harmless the same as being good? Most people would automatically say yes. I mean, if you're harmless, if you don't hurt anyone, if you don't cause any trouble, you must be a good person, right? But what if I told you that being harmless isn't the same as being good at all? In fact, being harmless might actually be a kind of failure, an abdication of responsibility, a refusal to engage with the world in a meaningful way. And here's the dark truth: a harmless man isn't necessarily a good man. He's just a man who hasn't been tested, who hasn't had the courage to confront his own capacity for destruction and then choose self-restraint. Let's break this down. Being harmless is passive. It's the absence of danger. It's about being safe, predictable, and non-threatening. But goodness is active. It's about making difficult choices, sometimes painful choices, in the service of something greater. A good man isn't good because he's harmless. He's good because he's capable of doing harm but chooses not to. And that's a crucial distinction. The harmless man avoids conflict, avoids challenge, avoids risk. But the good man engages with those things and masters them. Now, I want you to imagine something. Think about the difference between a harmless animal and a domesticated animal. A harmless animal has no real power. It doesn't have claws. It doesn't have fangs. It's at the mercy of the world around it. But a domesticated animal, think of a trained dog, for example, has power. It has strength, speed, and even aggression, but it's learned to control those instincts. It's disciplined. It's the same with human beings. A harmless man is like a declawed cat, incapable of defending himself or others. He's not good, he's just weak. But a good man is like a strong, disciplined warrior. He's learned to harness his power and use it for the right reasons. Here's a deep question for you. Would you rather be surrounded by people who are harmless or by people who are powerful but good? People who have the capacity to do harm but choose not to. This is where it gets interesting. For a long time, we've been told that to be a good person means being nice, agreeable, and harmless. But that's a shallow definition of goodness. Real goodness comes from strength. It comes from having the ability to cause destruction, to be dangerous, but choosing not to. Because when you're harmless, you're not making a moral choice, you simply don't have the tools to do anything else. A good man, on the other hand, is dangerous, but he's dangerous for the right reasons. He's dangerous to the forces of chaos, to injustice, to cruelty. He's capable of standing up for what's right, even if that means fighting back.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's think about this in the context of real-world challenges. Life is not a safe, predictable place. It's full of conflict, full of situations that require strength, courage, and at times, even aggression. A harmless man isn't going to be able to face those challenges. He's not going to be able to protect his loved ones, to stand up for what's right, or to defend himself from the harsh realities of the world. He's going to avoid conflict, avoid danger, and hope that things will just work out on their own. But a good man is ready to face those challenges. He's ready to act, to stand firm, to be dangerous when necessary, but always in the service of something greater. Now, here's another thought-provoking question. When was the last time you faced a real challenge, a situation that required you to be strong, to confront danger or conflict? Did you step up, or did you shrink back into harmlessness? This leads us to an even deeper philosophical truth. The world needs good men, not harmless men. Harmless men are irrelevant. They don't contribute to the betterment of society because they're not engaged with the real battles of life. They're spectators, standing on the sidelines, hoping someone else will step in. But good men are warriors. They're the ones who step into the fray, who use their strength, their intelligence, and yes, even their aggression, to make the world a better place. They're the ones who protect the weak, who fight for justice, who have the courage to face the darkness within themselves and in the world around them. And that's the truth, that most people don't want to face. A harmless man is not a good man. He's just a man who hasn't been tested, who hasn't confronted the challenges that define real goodness. A good man, on the other hand, is someone who has faced those challenges, who has grappled with his own capacity for harm, and who has chosen to use his power for good. The warrior within why true goodness comes from power, not weakness. Now that we've established that being harmless isn't the same as being good, let's take this one step further. A truly good man is not just someone who avoids harm, he's someone who confronts his own inner darkness and transforms it into something powerful. This is a crucial point. Goodness doesn't come from weakness or the inability to do harm. It comes from mastering the capacity for destruction and choosing to restrain it. Here's the thing we often misunderstand about ourselves: we all have the capacity for harm. Each of us carries within us the potential for violence, for cruelty, for selfishness. And pretending that this part of us doesn't exist, that we're somehow above it, doesn't make it go away. In fact, it's dangerous to ignore this capacity because it leaves us unprepared to deal with it. A truly good man doesn't pretend that he's harmless. He acknowledges the darkness within himself and learns to control it. He becomes a warrior, not because he enjoys conflict, but because he knows that there are times when conflict is necessary, when standing up and being dangerous is the moral thing to do. Let me ask you, how well do you know your own capacity for harm? Have you ever truly confronted that part of yourself? Or have you tried to bury it, hoping it will never surface? The truth is, without recognizing this part of ourselves, we can never truly be good. Why? Because we can't control what we don't understand. If you don't acknowledge your own potential for harm, you might unconsciously act out in ways that hurt others. You might be passive when action is required. You might avoid tough decisions because they make you uncomfortable. And you might mistake your own weakness for moral virtue, telling yourself that you're a good person simply because you don't engage in conflict. But that's not good. That's avoidance. A good man is dangerous, not because he's reckless or violent, but because he's disciplined. He's someone who has faced his own inner chaos, who understands his own capacity for destruction, and who has chosen to bring that power under control. He doesn't avoid conflict because he's afraid of it. He embraces it when necessary, knowing that sometimes real goodness requires standing up, being strong, and yes, even being dangerous. So, here's another question for you. When was the last time you made a truly difficult decision, one that required you to step into conflict, to face your own discomfort, or even to hurt someone's feelings for the sake of doing the right thing? This brings us to an important insight. True goodness requires courage. It requires the courage to face your own shadow, to acknowledge your capacity for harm, and to master it. It requires the courage to step into difficult situations with strength and resolve, knowing that doing what's right isn't always easy or pleasant. But this is the path of the warrior. This is the path of the man who is not harmless but good. And here's the ultimate irony: the more a man understands his capacity for harm, the less likely he is to misuse it. A man who has never confronted his own capacity for destruction is far more dangerous than one who has, because he's blind to it. He doesn't understand the power he holds, and that ignorance makes him reckless. But a good man, a truly good man, is someone who has faced that power, who understands it intimately, and who chooses to use it only when necessary. The responsibility of power choosing to be dangerous for the right reasons. Now that we've explored the idea of mastering your capacity for harm, let's talk about what that mastery means in the real world. Power, after all, comes with a profound responsibility. When you understand your own strength, when you've acknowledged that you have the ability to cause harm, you also realize that it's your responsibility to choose when and how to wield that power. A harmless man doesn't have to worry about this. He's never in a position to make those difficult choices. But a good man, he's constantly faced with the question, when is it right to act? And when is it right to hold back? This is where the real challenge comes in. Being dangerous isn't just about having power, it's about knowing when to use it. A good man doesn't seek out conflict or violence for its own sake. He doesn't use his strength to dominate or control others. Instead, he uses it to protect, to defend, to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. And here's the thing, sometimes doing what's right means being willing to hurt people's feelings, to challenge their beliefs, or to stand up against injustice, even if it makes you unpopular. Ask yourself, are you willing to be the kind of person who stands up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it requires you to be strong and potentially dangerous? This is the kind of power that makes a difference in the world. It's not the power of brute force, but the power of moral courage. A good man doesn't avoid conflict because it's easier to be passive. He engages with the world because he knows that his strength has a purpose. He's willing to use his power for the right reasons, even if it costs him something. This is what separates a good man from a harmless one. A harmless man avoids responsibility, but a good man embraces it. In the end, this is what it means to be truly good. It's not about being safe or avoiding harm, it's about having the strength to do what's necessary, the wisdom to know when to act, and the courage to face the consequences of your actions. Being good isn't easy. It requires you to confront your own power and to use it wisely. Becoming the good man, the path from harmlessness to strength. As we bring this journey to its conclusion, let's focus on how we can move from being harmless to becoming truly good. The transition isn't an easy one, but it's necessary if you want to live a life of purpose, integrity, and strength. The first step is simple yet profound. You must acknowledge your own potential for harm. This is not an admission of being evil, rather, it's an acceptance of your full humanity. Every one of us has the capacity for destruction, for cruelty, for selfishness. But instead of fearing this side of yourself, you need to confront it. You might be wondering, why is it so important to recognize this? Because without understanding your capacity for harm, you can never truly choose goodness. A decision to be good only has meaning if you have the power to choose otherwise. If you deny this part of yourself, you aren't making a moral choice, you're just being passive, avoiding the responsibility that comes with power. So, how do you harness this power? How do you become a good man, not just a harmless one? It starts with discipline. The key to mastering your capacity for harm is self-control. A truly good man isn't someone who is weak or passive, he's someone who has learned to control his impulses, to channel his strength into productive, meaningful action. This discipline allows you to confront the challenges of life with courage, rather than shrinking away from them. Let me ask you, is there an area of your life where you've been avoiding conflict, avoiding the responsibility that comes with power? What would happen if you stepped into that challenge with strength and purpose? The final step in this journey is to align your strength with a cause greater than yourself. A good man doesn't use his power for selfish reasons, he uses it to protect, to serve, and to uplift others. This is where real meaning comes from, not in being harmless and avoiding conflict, but in using your strength to make the world a better place. In the end, becoming a good man is about embracing the full spectrum of who you are, your light and your darkness, and choosing to use your power wisely. It's about stepping into your strength, taking responsibility, and living with courage. So, the question is, are you ready to stop being harmless and start being truly good?